Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. Today, we take a closer look at the stories shaping our communities and our future, going past the surface and into the context, the impact, and the conversations that matter. I'm DJ Moises. Today, we turn our attention to the recent massive flooding that hit Cebu following Typhoon Tino. Cebu Vice Governor Glenn Anthony Soco has once again pushed for the revival of the Metro Cebu Drainage Master Plan. He will be joining us today via phone interview to talk about the flooding situation, the proposed drainage plan, and what steps the provincial government is taking to prevent similar disasters in the future. Good afternoon, Vice Governor Glenn.
Good afternoon, BJ. Good afternoon to all.
Yes, mayong hapon. So thank you once again for joining us this afternoon, because we know that the past days have been trying, and testing and challenging for you and a lot of our leaders, especially after Typhoon Tino affected many Cebuanos. So how are you?
Well, it's quite sad, BJ, And this has been the second state of calamity that we have declared in less than a month, So it's quite sad. I'm quite sad for our people, but I'm hopeful and optimistic that we can be able to see through this circumstances.
And speaking of seeing through this circumstance, Vice Govba, you recently called for the revival of the Metro Cebu Integrated Flood and Drainage Master Plan. For those of our viewers who may not be familiar about this, can you briefly explain this to us?
Yes, DJ. I'll to 2013. There was a roadmap study for Metro Cebu sustainable development. It was a study done by the Japanese International Communication or Cooperation Agency, as per spearheaded, or that was requested by the Metro Cebu Coordinating Development Board. From that roadmap study, they called out the portion which talks about resiliency, to come up with the Metro Cebu flood control and drainage system master plan. That was in 2017. When I became president of the Mandawi Chamber of Commerce and Industry in 2016, on July 1st, which was the very first day that I assumed office, and same with all the elected officials of that election that transpired, gibaha ta, sa entire Mandawi City and most parts of Cebu City. That was only 55 millimeter rainfall, DJ. So there was a meeting that ensued. The officials from the national agencies came here, and also DPWH, who was the lead agency. And in that meeting, together with, I was representing the business sector. Ang kaning DPWH, nagpagawas ni siya og plano. Mo ni siya ang Metro Cebu Integrated Flood Control and Drainage Master Plan. So when I sat as chairman of the Infrastructure Development Committee of the Regional Development Council 7, amo ning gi-endorse with the IDC, and then subsequently with the full council. And then it was included in the one of the priority projects of DPWH. So in 2018, there was funding available in the amount of 700 billion. In 2019, there was another amount of 1.2 billion. Now, these amounts were utilized to rehabilitate and improve the rivers in Subangdako, Tipolo, and two other rivers in Cebu City. After 2019, up to present, wala naging funding na abot no or na allocate for the said master plan.
And just to clarify, Vice Governor Glenn, if we say that since 2019 there was no more additional plan or fund, what was the funding then that was made specific for Kansaga River and Butuanan River? Were they DPWH initiated project but were not part of this plan that you mentioned?
Yes, precisely. We just learned later on that there were projects that were implemented and funding were made available that was no longer aligned to the master plan. Muna sad part because these projects were uncoordinated, these were substandard, and I've heard karon it was overpriced, no? Because ang katumanggong sa master plan, it was very specific. The master plan in itself was already a feasibility study. So there were really technical requirements na specific yung kayo o system on how to approach the implementation of these projects. No? Mura na ni siya nagtukod kag balay, DJ, no? That there's a plan, no? A very nice plan. And then, you start with the foundations. You cannot build the roof first before the foundations, no? So, wala na gini. Wala na ni siya may tabo since 2019.
So you mentioned that when the urgency was pronounced, that was still 55 millimeters, no, per hour ang raindrop, and for Tino, as we know, it's already at 183, no. So would you
there was spot, DJ, in the mountains of Toledo, 488 millimeters.
Okay, so
rainfall.
so that's even worse, no? So would you say that per the original Metro Cebu Integrated Flood and Drainage Master Plan, would that plan still be sufficient even with this amount of rainfall that we had during Tino?
I think there will be some updating that needs to be done, no? And it was mentioned by Secretary Vince Dizon that there is a need to revisit the plan. However, there are certain sections and interventions that can be done, no, as we speak, based on the plan. In fact, Secretary Vince Dizon wants that in 2026, doon na mahimo nga project that is aligned to the plan. No? The plan, DJ, it's not just related to infrastructure. No? It's not just structural in nature. It also talks about policies. No? That's why in my privilege speech yesterday, I talked to the board and asked them that we pass an ordinance that would require all vertical and horizontal developments, most especially in the upland barangays, to include in their development stormwater or rainwater catchment facilities. There's a formula to that could mitigate the flow of water downstream. Now, part of the plan as well are the building of dams, because Metro Cebu is defined as from Danao to Karkar, no? And in that plan, there were 9 locations identified nga butangan og dams.
Okay, so you're actually saying that aside from the river flood control projects that we are seeing, the said plan also include dams or rainwater catchment.
Yes.
And for the benefit of our viewers and even myself, will this dam also be useful in terms of eventually augmenting also shortage of water supply during summer.
Yes, because the catchment facilities would be able to give us water that we can use for our daily needs. Uh, the dams in itself can even be as an economic enterprise, no, to provide water for the households, and can even be undertaken through a public-private partnership. And I've heard that there were already concrete proposals from the private sector to undertake the construction of these dams.
Which is actually a welcome development, because some of the observations that I'm hearing from the field is, why is it that there's too much water in the Philippines or in Cebu during rainy season, and then during summer there's also a severe gap in terms of water supply, and why can't just we make the most of the excess to solution the shortage? So that's a welcome development if ever implemented. Now,
Okay, go ahead.
you wanted to say something.
Yes, because in the dry season, the problem worsens, no?
Yeah, correct.
Because the rivers become silted. So that was part also in the master plan, that there has to be desiltation of rivers and creeks, which serves as waterways, no? And there's a standard to which the structural projects needs to be done. For example, in a Butuanon River, it was designed based on the master plan nga kana siyang gilap doon ana is about 20 meters with embankments. And then ipa-deepen pa na siya by another 10 meters. But
And-
that never happened.
And then speaking of desiltation and also dredging ba, one of the observations, also correct me if I'm wrong, that I have, at least from what I'm seeing is these are more reactive rather than proactive. So in the said plan, is there a corresponding frequency also on how desiltation and dredging would also be proactively conducted?
When you desilt, I'm no expert, DJ, but the way they do it in other countries, or I've seen this in Iloilo, when you desilt, you have to really put concrete sloping barriers, no, and with embankments, no. In fact, it has to be fenced so that dili siya mapuyan, no, to keep people from putting up their structures there beside the river, no. So do nagi standard niya na that based on design without necessarily affecting the natural environment, the natural landscape. We've seen that happen in Ormoc. We've seen that happen in Iloilo, as I mentioned, and even in other countries. Naana siya, detailed na siya, naadiya sa master plan.
You also mentioned that projects funded nationally must consult with cities, municipalities, and even barangays, no? And so, given what happened during Typhoon Tino, how will then you and the provincial government ensure, no, that this will happen, that the local government will not just be consulted but also empowered?
In 2023, DJ, the provincial board, I was still a board member then, passed an ordinance, no? Ordinance 2023-02, which was further defined under Ordinance 2023-05. These ordinance enables certain sections of the local government codes, 2C, Section 16, Section 26, and 27. The local government code is very specific that all national government offices and agencies should coordinate closely with the provincial government or the local government unit and secure sanggunian approval. in our ordinance, we further define sanggunian as sangguniang panlalawigan. And then in the subsequent ordinance 2023-05, we added the penalty clause. So there's a fine of 5,000 pesos without prejudice to the filing of criminal and administrative cases to any official concerned. So we have been pushing for this ordinance since 2023. And as of yesterday, I sent a memo to all the board members to strictly abide, enjoin them to strictly abide by the ordinance that we have approved.
So given then the projects, no, because if I remember it correctly, there are 414 flood control related projects in Cebu in general then. So given this particular ordinance, can the penalties be already enforced given the violations around this, for example, 414 projects?
Yes, it's in effect because an ordinance is a law, is a local law.
And
It started in 2023.
And I know that we are still on the recovery phase, but the situation is also urgent. So how are agencies like, for example, DPWH going to move this forward now? Now, because I know that there are investigations that need to be conducted. There are also penalties that are yet to be enforced, but at the same time, there's also tremendous work that's also needed for us to mitigate this problem. So how is the collaboration then between these government agencies and the provincial government be more effective moving forward?
Well, I have always been calling for accountability, for this master plan to be able to be effective moving forward. There has to be accountability. No? Other regulatory and the proper authorities are already undertaking the investigations and all that, and I totally support it. No, there has to be somebody accountable. No, heads has to roll, no? And there has to be fear of the law. No, for this initiative to move forward. Now, moving forward, I've asked the provincial board, the board members, to already coordinate with the agencies under their area of responsibility, and have them coordinate with their plans and programs with the provincial government, and for them to secure Sangguniang Panlalawigan approval. In that way, DJ, ma-ensure na to nga makibaw kitag unsa ni nga mga projects nga mahitabo gid diri sa atuag yung lalawigan. Kay mind you, kanang gi-mention nimo nga 414 nga projects nga nitabo diri, wa gyoy kalabutan ang provincial government ni ana. Kana siyang amount nga that has been mentioned of billions of pesos, 26 billion mangani.
26 billion.
Wala
Yes.
gyoy labot ang provincial government gyud ni ana. And that is the sentiment of the local government units, the mayors down to the barangay capitans, that projects happen in their localities, no, projects of which were not coordinated at all with their offices. And to me, that has to change.
So I remember when the 414 flood control projects were actually mentioned by the president, and if I remember it correctly, Cebu is even ranking second to Bulacan. I was already hearing certain pronouncements also from both Cebu City government and also the provincial government to conduct a review of what were these 14 flood control projects were about. Where are we now in terms of the inventory of the 414 flood control projects?
We are not privy to the discussions, DJ. I trust that this has, in terms of investigations, gihimo na ni siya sa mga agencies concerned. And what we can do is just to support unsa mo'y outcome of what these agencies would need from us. But categorically, we can say that wala gyud ni siya ma-coordinate gyud sa MUA, no? And this is not compliant with the ordinance that we have filed, no?
And then, sige, now let's go into the detail now of the ordinance. And this is also to educate our viewers, including myself. How will this look like, Vice Gov, no? Given that we also have highly urbanized cities in the province, no? Like Cebu or Mandaue. So how will this ordinance, or no, sorry, how will this ordinance or even the master plan be managed?
Well, the province of Cebu doesn't have any jurisdiction over
Correct.
the highly urbanized cities, no? Yesterday, after the flag raising ceremony, I proposed to Governor Pamela Baricuatro to form a body, no, which would discuss flood in relation to flood management, no? So to create that body, which would include the Metro Cebu mayors, no, and invite the Tri-Cities, and that body to include all relevant agencies, no, DPWH, DNR, EMB, even the DSUD, kaning housing department, and all the other agencies, and to include the private sector, in particular the ones who were pushing for the flood control and drainage master plan, no, because the MCDCB is no longer existent now, I believe. Now, the first order of business of this body, as I have proposed to Governor Baricuatro, is to call for a flood management summit, and she's open to the idea, and that should happen soon, to discuss about the flood control and drainage master plan.
And the reason actually that I'm asking that question, it's also because flooding does not really choose LG, in terms of the movement of water. So even if, for example, the provinces or the municipalities upstream would not, if ever they're not, for example, effective in their flood control system, then the cities downstream, like Cebu and Mandaue, would still be impacted. So even if they are highly urbanized cities, to some extent, there needs to be an integrated movement to manage specifically the flood issue.
I get you, DJ. In 2013, I mentioned, there was already the Metro Cebu Coordinating Development Board, where all local government units had a stake, no? Were part of that. That should have been an option in the creation of the Mega Cebu, but that never sailed, no? It could have been a super body already, just like the MMDA. Now, this time around, we will begin with the creation of that body, no, that will be spearheaded by the governor. And then we have talked about reviving that MCDC, maybe an expanded one, because we are now talking of Central Cebu in terms of flooding. Asturias, Balamban, and Toledo have already experienced flooding. Aside from just flooding, we can include other issues like traffic, if that body will be formed. But at least for now, we can begin by starting to talk about the Metro Cebu or the Central Cebu flooding, based on the most recent typhoon that just happened.
Actually, in the early stages of flooding, so this is like early this year, and then even when we were talking back then too much about the traffic issue, I was already hearing now about the Metro Cebu Development Authority, which is similar conceptually to MMDA in Metro Manila. Just for the sake of learning our lesson, what kept the body, or what were the hurdles that prevented for this body to be created? Is it political will? Is it legal hurdle? Or was it just lack of consensus among the local leaders or chief executives?
Well, all that you have mentioned were hurdles already. No? There's a lot of politics involved in that creation. No? So the political situation has to be managed for us to be able to come up with that body.
And do you think our leaders are now more ready to give up a little bit of local control in exchange for a stronger and more integrated, unified system?
Well, we hope so. And to me, there's no other way, DJ, no? You mentioned it right, that when it comes to flooding, it's boundaryless. Like in the case of Mandaue, usahay walay uwan sa Mandaue pero magbaha. Because waters from Mandaue comes from the upland barangays, which is already outside of its territorial jurisdiction. Like you talk about the Subang-Dako River, that shares the boundary between Cebu City and Mandaue. I think the local governments have already initiated some actions. Like I've heard, there is the Beyond Borders initiative between Cebu City and Mandaue City. No, I mean, this is a step in the right direction, but we need to look at flooding Mangod in the bigger perspective. No? And what just happened, flooding happened from Danao to Karkar, and it crossed even to the west. So this is something that that needs to be considered. The good thing, again, I'm pointing out that we already have the flood control and drainage master plan in place. That should be our guide.
So at least we've covered a little more detail with respect to the flood control as well as the drainage project. Does the master plan also include watersheds and forest
Yes.
covers?
Yes. In fact, that's part of the policy part that there has to be a watershed management initiative, no? A body that will manage the watershed.
And given that a lot of these watersheds are also shared by multiple LGUs, then how will the proposed unified master plan address also assigning responsibility in case neglect in one area would affect everybody downstream, as you mentioned earlier?
Well, as I have mentioned, DJ, that Metro Cebu coordinating body or a mega Cebu of sorts, which is really a policy body, a body organized through policy, no? That under that wing, then you can organize already smaller bodies, no? That will have specific responsibilities, no? But the main point there is that it is coordinated. It is a shared responsibility among all local government units, among all stakeholders.
And I think the good thing about at least this conversation, Vice Governor Glenn, is because we are able to achieve a bit more clarity given the details of the ordinance and also the master plan that you have shared to us, and we are grateful. But before we let you go, there are a lot of brewing sentiments, and I believe you've also heard quite a lot of this because we see these a lot also even in social media, about billions that were actually spent not just with flood-related infrastructure, but infrastructure in general. But what heightened the problem, it's because of the many displaced families and also destroyed homes and even lives that were lost because of the recent typhoon. In your view, how can the government restore public trust, no? As far as the people are concerned, the Cebuanos are concerned, in terms of government-led projects?
Well, first of all, DJ, because of what happened no, in the national scene or even in the local scene about these anomalous projects, there has to be accountability. Those who are accountable, those who have made money, those who have been proven to be corrupt should be put behind bars, no, or be made accountable. No? That is to restore at least confidence that, after all, the law works, and we have to instill fear of government, no, the fear of law, the fear of the law, rule of law. No? Secondly, we have to do the right projects right. We cannot just do any project. It has to be scientifically done. No? There has to be basis. No? Just like how projects are done in other countries. No? Dili mahimo nga, you know, you just do a project which is uncoordinated and you know, not based on scientific studies. So I'm saying, let's do the right projects right. And then third is kami karon, like all of us now. This should be a learning lesson. No, it's tough. No, it's hard that we have to go through this. But with the advent of social media and the digital age, no, all hands should be on deck. And you know, we are already accountable to the public because the public knows. It may not be good for some, but to us, it's a matter of being transparent, that people will see now what we are doing, and we are being held accountable through the public perception. No? So all of these factors have to come into play for people to be able to trust government again. They have to see tangible and good results moving forward.
So thank you, Governor, for those statements that hopefully will restore public trust when it comes to government-led projects. And if I recorded it correctly, this is about choosing the right project. This is about accountability. And on this part, a lot of people are actually expecting that.
DJ, if I may just
Yes.
if I may just interject a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, pili lang kayo sa nilimitado lang sa government on how we approach this.
Okay.
Each and every Cebuano, each and every citizen also have a stake in this. No? If we live in flood-prone areas, we also have to rethink the way we live. Because we are probably comfortable that we have homes, we are near to our jobs, but if it is a hazard-prone area, then we have to rethink the way we live. Second is we have to be responsible because nakita gina nako nga ang basura, no, usa gini sa dako kayo yung problema nato, ug di gina madas pro gobyerno og dili na ang tagsa-tagsa nato. Ikatulo, even in our own little way, in our homes, in our backyards, or when we do developments as business people, that we cannot just keep on concreting surfaces. no? What has to seep through, no, sa ground. And that's what I've noticed. Like when I saw what happened in Liloan, where an entire area of 4 subdivisions beside the river, nahimo gyud siya usa ka dako kay nga swimming pool because it's just too much concrete. Ang default nato ug di ta gusto bahaan is atong simento diha parang tubig modagan sa pikas. Now what will happen ug dunay blockade na dito di nakagawas ang tubig? Then mulutaw kita. So we all have a stake in this, DJ.
Yeah, and if can you educate me now because we're about to end supposedly, but your interjection actually also introduced further curiosity. Do you have the figure with you, at least based on, if ever it is in the master plan, the percentage of open spaces per project or per area?
I don't have the.
But it should be
figures.
there,
It's in the
no?
master plan, but it should be there. It's there. But under the law, we are supposed to allocate 30% of our developable spaces for open parks and open spaces.
Yeah, so I think that's the percentage also that I was looking for. So let's call it 30%. Now we know that there are quite a number of developments potentially who are not compliant with the 30% open spaces. But will there be political will to really enforce these moving forward?
There should be, and as far as we are concerned in the provincial board, we will look into it because we are currently reviewing all the comprehensive land use plans of all the local government units, and for each and every local government unit under the jurisdiction of the province of Cebu to start looking into their respective CLUPs. If these requirements have been met, no, in the essence of preventing flooding and other calamities.
So thank you, Vice Governor Glenn, for joining us. Like what you said earlier, also, I would agree that while Typhoon Tino was definitely undesired because lives were lost and homes were destroyed, no? But at least if we learn our lessons from these, then we are also hopeful that this situation will also lead to a wiser and better Cebu and a wiser and better Philippines. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for making time.
Thank you, DJ, and maayong adlaw sa ato ang mga kaigsoonang Cebuan.
So that wraps up this edition of Beyond the Headlines. We hope today's conversation helps shed light on the bigger picture behind the flood story. And once again, we'd like to thank our guest, Cebu Vice Governor Glenn Anthony Soco, for helping us connect the dots in ways that matter. I'm DJ Moises. Thank you and good afternoon.